coming to you live from CBT Studios in the heart of Roseville, California. I'm your host, Matt, and joined with me as always is my co-host,
Roger.
And this is Cryptid vs. Cryptid. Let's hop right into the episode. It occurred to me about, I want to say like halfway or nearing the end of the intro right there. Maybe from now on we should start it off with, and this is Cryptid versus Conspiracy.
We probably should.
But we're too far in. The can has already been cracked.
Bucket, full send.
I mean, we got it on the third try, which is pretty good for us. Mm-hmm. So, let's get the boring shit out of the way real quick. As always, welcome back to Cryptid vs. Cryptid, the show where we talk about cryptids versus cryptids.
Except for this is now Cryptid versus Conspiracy, so we're talking about conspiracies now.
Yeah, we're hopping around, doing a little different thing now and then. I checked the stats, 3,646 downloads. Thank you very much. I think Skinwalker Ranch just hit like 100 downloads. Well, it's over, but it hit it. Mm-hmm. So that's very much appreciated. If you want to get in contact with us, you can reach us at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com. That is
Cryptid V.S. Cryptid@gmail.com.
You can also find us on some social media platforms, mainly Instagram. We're Cryptid vs. Cryptid on there. I used to post a good bit on there. Now it's kind of slowed down. But if an episode's coming late and you're on Instagram, you'll see me say something there. It's kind of my shit, I don't have time to do an episode. Well, I'll just let everybody know on there. I mean, we're managing to squeeze one out this week when I think in the last episode we said we might not be able to.
And I don't think that was the case. The last video we said we didn't know what we were doing. And we didn't probably post on what we were doing after.
For sure. But we are back, continuing that 2-week streak. We're two episodes into the 2-week streak.
Let's see if we can keep this up.
Right? Now that my schedule's changed, I think it'll be a lot easier. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else we want to cover while we're doing our little average every episode duties?
Nothing I can think of. Just keep supporting this series if you guys like this series, and we'll continue it.
Fuck yeah. Now, Roger, why don't you take us on a little adventure this week? Mm-hmm. What are we talking about?
We going to Palmyra, somewhere in Maine.
I think that is where we're headed this episode.
All right. Well, then we got to talk about these mysterious creatures that people have called the Palmyra wolves.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fitting. I got some theories that I was bouncing around, but I think we'll talk more theory near the end. But why don't you start us off with the story of the
Martin family. I don't know names. I think the dad's name is Steve, I think. So Steve used to be, I think he was working with the union or something. He was like a pipe construction or something like that. But something led him to get injured during his duty, and so the family had to make drastic changes and move to Maine. And so they find this little nice farmland with like acres on it, and they move in. They didn't see anything quite unnatural about it. They were like, oh, this looks like a nice home. We'll be able to do it. Upon them moving in, I don't remember the wife's name, but Steve and his wife used to fight about Steve's guns being in the house, and so he locks the guns into the fucking barn, and he has his gun locker in there.
And of course it'll come back to bite them in the ass eventually.
Yeah. After that, him and his wife had a ritual of always going outside and just sitting on the rocking chairs, as country people do.
The classic, typical farmer country lifestyle way you live. You just, end of the day, sit on the porch with your beer in your rocking chair. Most of the time you got your gun with you too, but not in this case.
So this one wasn't beer. This is iced tea, I think is what they have.
Okay.
Or not iced tea, but just tea.
Sure, Steve.
I think it
tea.
Yeah, but
we're keeping it PG here. We're locking the guns away, and we're drinking iced tea.
And so a few few weeks passed by and there was nothing strange. But then one night they're doing their average ritual, and they look out and they see these like 4 lights just moving around everywhere. And so Steve just thinks it's poachers. He's a big hunter, so he just like, oh, okay, well, it's just poachers, whatever. And they keep coming back night after night. And finally, Steve's like, all right, I'm gonna go fucking scare these guys. And so he brings his son. I don't remember what his fucking son's name was, but they go over, and these lights just fade away as soon as they start going near them. And they try and track them. They see these tracks. They don't know what the fuck these are, and it leads into this cave. And they're like, all right, we're just not gonna go for this. Eventually, something happens to the point where his daughter and her boyfriend finally go over and start searching. They go in a little deeper in the cave, and they hear growling, and then they go away. After that, a couple nights go by, and the same thing keeps happening. They see these lights. They'll see figures sometimes, like figures that are standing up. When they're like 8, they look like they're 8 feet tall, and they're just standing looking at them. Eventually, one night, Steve has had enough of it, and so I think he pulls out a gun and shoots at it, and that's when they start getting hostile. Now, their hostile isn't like rushing towards him. It's like they rushed, and then they just like stopped at the gravel driveway, and at this point, they're already inside. And these things, the Palmyra wolves, are just sitting in a line, 5 of them, just sitting there, staring at the house. And so, at this point, they have boarded up I don't even think they boarded up everything yet.
I think it was just they were locking the doors and windows at this point.
Yeah, I think they locked the doors, closed all the blinds, and so eventually these wolves, they go back, and they kind of like step back for a little bit, and so that's when Steve decides to go. He's going to try and go get a gun and get the truck and pull it up to the front of the door so that they can get the fuck out of there. And as he's trying to do that, he's fumbling with his keys. He can't get the truck to start. And
Of course.
Then he sees these things just start bolting towards him. And at this point, he's like, okay, I'm going back in the house for my safety. And so he goes back in the house. He tells his wife to help board up the windows, board up the doors and everything. And that's when these things get towards the doors. And they're starting scratching at this place. They're looking through the windows. At one point, they look through the windows, and the dogs are cowering. They're like under the beds, just like not wanting any part of this. And they were German Shepherds, so they're known.
The German Shepherds, they're big. They're scary. Quick little story, because you see them, you think they're all friendly and stuff. They're just dogs. When I worked at the grocery store years and years ago now, I was helping a lady out to her car, and she's like, "Oh, we have a dog, but he's friendly. It's okay." So I'm thinking they got like this little fucking rat dog back there, whatever. Walk up to the car, German Shepherd thing just bounces to the back windshield, just going off crazy. Mm-hmm. I've never been more scared of a dog in my entire life, and then at that moment. And my buddy of mine who also worked at the grocery store, about a year ago, he's doing some landscaping. That's what his job was now. And he goes in the backyard of this person's place to get tools, and they have 2 German Shepherds. And they're just chasing him down. They end up like biting him in the ass, literally. And he had to go to the hospital to get stitches. But this is just to say, German Shepherds, while they look cute and cool, they're very scary.
There's a reason the police use them and train them. So these dogs are just like cowering in fear. And at one point they look through the window and they can see the figures just sitting there. And this is on their 2nd floor. So they actually jumped up onto like those little side roofs on like 2-story country houses.
Like a balcony, or not a balcony,
well,
but
the
yeah,
thing
like
that covers the balcony.
Yeah, the roofing on top of it.
Yeah, and they're on that. They have jumped up on that, and they're circling the house, scratching the doors. And so this lasts all night, and they're just terrified for their lives, waiting for something to happen. And then eventually they go back, and they're sitting at the windows again, and then they just go off. And in the morning they open the onboard doors, look outside, and they have a footprint. They're like, what the fuck is this thing? They have all scratches everywhere. And so eventually, like 2 weeks later, they just sell the house. And they move. Because they don't want to deal with this shit.
Is that where the story ends, pretty much?
That's one of the stories, yeah.
Okay.
I think there's another 411 missing case of a little girl about these, but I couldn't find anything else on that.
So just to backtrack a little, that was a good retelling. The only 2 things is they had the daughter had a boyfriend or whatever staying, and when they found that like cave area, What I remember hearing is that it was kind of like a shelter that was built, kind of thing, not just
They
like
had
a
like
cave.
nesting and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they first started noticing it, when you were talking about the lights, there was an interesting word used. It wasn't like...
Oh, it was, he yelled to get off my damn property.
Yeah.
Because it was the poachers.
But the way that the lights were described, it wasn't like, oh, you know, like an animal's blinking and so they disappear. It was like pulsating.
Yeah.
The lights were pulsating. And that really caught my attention because I was like, that's an interesting word to describe. Because if animals, when the light reflects, their eyes just glow. But these things are not seemingly just regular animal eyes. They're pulsating, getting brighter and then darker. Besides that, I mean, I don't really have much to add onto this. It's not a topic that's covered to death, really.
No, this is like a one-time story that happens, and if you're in the area, you know about this because it's such a big one in the town. I've seen some people describe it as maybe another Dogman sighting.
Here's the thing, because I was listening to a video talking about this on my way back home, and I got a couple things on my mind about it. One, Dogman I think is a reasonable pick for like an explanation for this. I've never read anywhere of like a Dogman pack. Every time I've seen packs involved with Dogman, it's regular wolves, and then you have the Dogman, who's like the leader of the pack. And so that kind of takes it away for me. What also takes it away from Dogman for me is the way they describe these nests built. It's not just like something went, grabbed a bunch of straw and put it on the ground. It's like constructed a small miniature house with the nesting inside. And then the pulsating lights really throw me off. What do you think about werewolves?
I think it could be a possibility. That would make sense in why they're not there during the day, unless they're just hiding it around their housing.
Yeah, because I thought, for me at least, because when I think of Dogman, I think they're more just animalistic. So why would you want like 5 alphas
in the same
in
spot?
just one pack? And so I thought maybe it's a tribe of werewolves. Maybe this piece of land is part of their territory and they're trying to get these guys out without causing like this big scene of people coming to investigate. But then for me that would explain the nesting / shelter. Like that's something that obviously animals in nature make their own shelters, nests, whatever you want to call them. But these seem like too complex to just be a normal animal built shelter. So I thought, okay, it would make sense for a werewolf while they're in their human form to construct something like this. But then I go back to the pulsating lights. And I'm like, why would there be pulsating lights just randomly? And it seems to be an occasional thing that happens too. And I really don't have an explanation for that. My only one would be to go and say, like, aliens. But then, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of stuck on a good explanation for this one.
I think maybe pulsating lights is supposed to say that they're just like animal reflections in the eyes, but they're just like blinking constantly. And so it's just kind of like pulsating through.
That would make more sense. Because then I think at that point I would go werewolf. Just because I think that's a good, solid explanation for it.
Yeah, I've seen that. The common one is bears. Why would 5 bears that are fucking 8 feet tall, which I don't think bears are usually that tall, would be around each other.
Well, and then to get up on the awning, or whatever we want to call it, that little roof, lower roof section, bears just wouldn't have the agility to make that kind of jump. Maybe if there was like a stable base, it could climb on top of it.
And they would have to be pretty skinny too, because that thing would just crush through if it was a bear that's like 400 pounds on it.
I mean, unless they're making this shit up, which maybe it's a possibility, I don't see why something like this would be made up. It's not like a case of the Skinwalker Ranch where I could like kind of be like, okay, it would kind of make sense. Maybe the farming life didn't work out for this guy, and so he made up all these stories to sell his ranch at like a high price.
I don't even think this was like a ranch. They just lived on
on some property. Acres. And so I just don't see that incentive here to be like, let's make up this big story so we can get out of like a shitty deal. Because it's not like this piece of property they have is their entire livelihood.
No.
As to where you have with the Skinwalker Ranch, where that was kind of that guy's whole livelihood was the ranch.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm really trying to believe this one, and I think I do, and I would have to go down the werewolf path with it.
Yeah. For me, it's just that they have such a... Because werewolves are more aggressive. They go straight for the attack. They want to just go running and then just stay there and stalk their prey, like wolves would do. That's why I would think it would be something more towards Dogman.
I don't know. I mean, maybe they're more hyper-intelligent werewolves. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying where, when they get in their werewolf form, they're more just primal and stuff. But I mean, just the nesting and thing seems a little too smart for me to really piece together it being Dogman.
Yeah, the only thing about Dogman, though, is that we've never really, looked for a Dogman habitat or where it would sleep.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, this could be a possible, Dogman's finally learning how to build shelters and stuff.
Yeah, or the first person to finally bring it about. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. But there's also something weird. When you said the Martin family, I thought I heard it before. And so, two things actually, and probably touch on them eventually. But there's a case of an alien attack, and I'm pretty sure these people were the Martin family as well, where these gremlin-like aliens are just attacking their home, and these people take off to the police station, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, another Martin family. And then while I was doing some more research on this topic, I had originally searched the Martin family on YouTube just to see what would pop up. And there's a 50-year-old case, like I was telling you, about this family of 5, the Martin family,
that goes
who
missing.
Just seemingly disappears from Oregon in the 1950s. Just all of them gone one day out of the blue. And I don't know, maybe the Martin family is like a cursed name or something, that bad luck is to befall them. Because, I mean, this dude did lose his union job, and then he dealt with this. And I don't know what's going on now. I know this case is fairly recent.
Yeah, I think this is even like 2016 or 13 or something. It's in the 2000s, I know that. So it's not like a whole 1950s deal.
Yeah, no, it's not like it's 1980s, 50s, 60s, 70s like that. This is a really recent case that's going on.
Yeah, there's another case of the missing girl, but like I said, I can't think of anything. I couldn't find anything of where it was and what took place and what's about this, but there is something about a missing girl, and they believe that this was the
Does
cause.
she come back?
No.
No, she's just gone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fitting for a lot of the missing 411 stuff. And I think it could lead to a good explanation, but I don't know, because I would have to know where it takes place, because it comes down to a problem I have with a lot of cryptids, is that you hear it happens in one place, and then it happens in another place, like 10 states away, and it's like, are these guys constantly moving around the United States or something? Because I like to think that there's not a lot of cryptids out there. That's why they're so elusive, and they're probably just in this one area. But I've looked into the missing 411 stuff a lot. There's some good stuff there, but at the same time, I have my gripes with the whole thing, and it doesn't help that they don't keep files of all this stuff, and you have to pretty much go to one source to really find a lot for missing 411 if you're not just coming through police records or stuff like that.
Yeah. About that, speaking of police, this one when they were getting attacked or they were being held in their home, they called the police, but the police didn't do anything. They just laughed and were like, "Okay, it's probably just wolves. You'll be fine."
I mean, that's not all that surprising.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, imagine working at a call center, somebody calls 911, you get something like this. Still, though, unless they went directly to the police station, you think the police would still come out. I'd be really interested to see, since it is a recent case, if there would be any pictures of stuff. Because even if you go through an attack like that, they didn't get out for 2 weeks. If something like this happened, I'd try and get as much photographic evidence.
Yeah, it might have been 2 weeks. It might have just been for them to get the house ready and then sell it. And so they probably weren't at the house. They were at a hotel. But, yeah, they were there for a while. And then all this shit happened and they were just like, okay, we're out. Which is a reasonable thing to do. It's not like a Skinwalker Ranch where they're staying constantly and not giving any evidence. And that's what helps me with the believability, because there's so much shit going on and they just leave. It's not 2 days and they leave. It's they just sell the house and then they leave.
Yeah, no, I think that really helps, because it's they're not trying to grab attention by staying in this place and trying to bait out even more or keep the story alive and going. This crazy shit happens to them and they're like, all right, fuck this, peace out. And yeah, they probably just dipped like right after it happened, maybe rented a hotel rooms or something until they could get their money or find somewhere else. And I would agree that helps with the believability. What are your thoughts on? Because we talked about this before we started, but we're probably throwing out the scale for this. So believability wise, where does this rank for you on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10, huh? I'd probably.
However, whatever angle you want to tackle it from, not Skinwalker, but Dogman, Werewolf, whatever angle.
Even both Dogman and Werewolf, it's still like at least a 7 for me. Because as where Skinwalker Ranch is like maybe a 6 or so, this one has to be higher than it for me. It might even be closer to an 8.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I love everything about Skinwalker Ranch. I think it's really interesting. But when you really dive into it and you're like being as critical as possible, because at least when we're doing the show, you want to be as critical as possible and not like, well, I'm just going to say I believe it because it's fun. Like, we're trying to analyze this shit and be like, okay, here it is. Here's what we think. No biases. And I would agree with you. I think I've put more validation into this story than I do Skinwalker Ranch, just because it's been so blown up and out of proportion. I think I really like the werewolf angle for me personally. I think these could just be like farther evolved werewolves that have more control over the transformation kind of thing. And so I want to say I'm probably going to give it an 8. I think I'm going to go 7. I think I'm going to stick with you on a 7 on this one. Even if the scratches and the footprint looked wolf-like or something else, if they were weird, great, but I wish there were pictures or some kind of evidence that they kept with them. Personally, if it was me and all this freaky shit happened, I'd be out the door ASAP too, but I would take some pictures, even if it turns out it was just a bear. It was just a big wolf.
That's true. Even with like the girlfriend or the boyfriend with their daughter, I feel like they're young enough and it's just like recent. It's like 2010. They would pull out their phone and just take a picture and be like, whoa, look
even
at this.
Even if it's like
weird.
your shitty flip phone camera, if they didn't have an iPhone, like still, or get your digital camera or something. Get the film camera that you just get for traveling with your traveling film.
I am going to say I didn't try and look hard for any pictures because I just didn't think there was any pictures over here. So
yeah, there might be some, but I don't know. But I think I'm going to have to rest at a 7. I really do like it. I think there's some good key witnesses. Almost everybody here has a story to tell about seeing something weird or hearing something weird here. They didn't really gain anything from it. And I don't think there's a problem with trying to gain anything from a creepy story like this. But they didn't. And that shows that, like...
And they didn't chase it like a lot of hoaxers do. Like the guy with Skunk Ape who keeps chasing and chasing and chasing. These people were like, creepy shit? Fuck it, I'm out. And they just left.
Yeah, no, I mean, they gave interviews. Obviously, people were interested. They had a story to tell. But they didn't push it. They just told their story, and then it was done. And I don't know what recent activities go on. I don't think it's like a Skinwalker Ranch where there's always somebody trying to capture what's going on there.
Yeah.
So maybe more creepy shit's happened since then, but I'm not sure.
I tried to look it up. I tried to look over any other website I could find. Oh, another place covered this. It was Paranormal Witnesses. They covered it in an episode. It's season 3, episode 10 or something like that. If you look it up, you'll find it. But they also covered this story as well.
Okay.
But nothing really came of this one, and I can't see anything else about anyone else spotting this shit. They just say, oh my god, I live 5 minutes from here. I'm kind of scared now. Thank you.
Even the guy who I watched on YouTube was like, my grandma lived like however minutes away from this place. Mm-hmm. And that's how he like described it. But yeah, no, I mean, there's really... I don't want to say there's no similar sightings, because obviously there's Dogman and werewolf sightings, but there's no sightings in the area that are the same of this thing. So I really think it's just like these wolves, wolfman, Dogman, werewolf creatures have like this
creature.
Yeah, they have their own space, and these people just stepped on their space.
I just had a thought. What if these are skinwalkers? And that's why they are acting so weird. Because if you think about it, they're just literally sitting there. Mm-hmm. They run at full speed, and they're running like, I think the guy said 40 feet a second or whatever. but they are bolting across this field and they just stop and they sit there. And we know how skinwalkers just act. They don't act like the actual creature they're supposed to. And they also stand up on hind legs, which is what these things were doing.
My only thing with the skinwalker theory, which I could delve into it, I could see it a little bit. I'd have to look more into it, because that's a Navajo creature, right?
Yeah.
I'd have to look into, like, if they were active in that area or did anything in that area.
I think they're down more towards, like, New Mexico and stuff.
Okay. But even then, the only thing that really would take a skinwalker approach away from me is just, I don't think there's really any cases of them in, like, large packs. I mean, could have been a group of people practicing dark magic, maybe like a dark magic cult, and then they all got the skinwalker curse. Mm-hmm. But that'd be the only real way. Because, I mean, it would explain the supernatural physical abilities, the building of shelters and things like that, and then just stalking the prey over time instead of just aggressively attacking at first sight. I don't know, it's so strange, because at the same time, these things, if there's 5 of them, I think they could have killed the family. Oh, yeah. Pretty easily.
They could have. For me, I'm surprised, because they didn't even board some of the windows up. They just, like... Because they saw the creatures up there, looking through the fucking windows. Yeah. And... they didn't break the windows. They just sat there. Now, they couldn't see them through the blinds, because so it was literally just like a blind that was blocking them. And they can see the shadow. They couldn't see the figure itself.
And that's what makes me really think it's more of a territory thing for these creatures. Because if they wanted them dead, they could have killed them. Because these are like giant wolf creatures, but they chose not to. And like they seemingly, this had been going on for a while. And they just didn't kill him when they had the chance. There, I imagine, would have been plenty of times when these people weren't paying attention that they could have gone for him. And so I really think it was just like, hey, you're in our territory, get out. Let's freak them the fuck out. You leave us alone, we'll leave you alone, but you have to go. And that's why I really do think it could be like a werewolf thing. These are just people that want to be left alone, don't want anybody in their spot, and so they're just scaring them away. They're not just some heartless beast creatures. But that's pretty much all I gotta bring for the table.
Yeah, there's nothing else. This is just like a one-time thing, and it was so weird that everyone got the attention, and it wasn't like blown out of proportion at any time.
Yeah, nothing that's completely just unbelievably blown up. But I mean, we're only at 30 minutes. I guess this is just... I think these episodes are always gonna end up short. They're more fun. Like, Cryptid versus Cryptid is always usually an hour. Just gives us time to cover every angle we want to talk about. These episodes are more just for our fun. Gives us a little break, too.
Yeah, and it also just depends on the story and how much there is to the story.
Because I think this is a great story. There's just not a whole lot of substance there to stretch out over an hour long period. But we were talking about adding a segment into this. I think maybe the next one we should bring it in, unless you want to do it tonight.
No, I mean, we can do it tonight. I can't. There's not something I could show. There's something I want to show that's like a talking point for it. I was scrolling through TikTok and my girlfriend decides to show me this video, and it's of a dog. Mm-hmm. And it's like a husky, right? And the caption says, the dog's name is Logan. He's like, I already brought Logan inside, so this isn't Logan. What is this? And the dog isn't acting normal either. It's like a scratching at the door. It's fucking scratching with both paws. Its eyes are just glowing. It's not barking at all. It's just sitting there.
I say, obviously, shorter episodes. From now on, at the end of these episodes, we'll just bring up a random talking point to ravel on for a few minutes. So are you thinking Skinwalker?
It's a pretty damn good evidence. Now, he didn't have a video of, like, he didn't go looking and be like, oh, this is my dog, and what the fuck is that?
I mean, that's pretty creepy. Because, like, every time I've had dogs, the dog I have now, he's old as fuck. And he just sits outside, and if he needs to get in, he barks.
Yeah.
Just because he can't walk very well. But even when he could walk well, and he'd still, like, scratch at the door, and he would bark. He would make noise to be like, hey, let me the fuck in. Every dog I've had has done that. And so unless this dog is, like, extremely well trained... Give me 1 second here, Roger's showing me the video. And yeah, it's really kind of creepy.
And so, it's one thing that's been on my mind. I'm like, this has to be probably the best evidence for a skinwalker. Because you get other videos that are like, oh, there's a skinwalker that's stalking my property. And first of all, they don't even live in the right area for a skinwalker to be in that area. And then it's just like two fucking bright lights. sitting in a tree or sitting off in the distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that one's definitely creepy. But if we're being critical, one, he doesn't show the dog. And then two, I totally forgot what I was about to say. God damn it.
One, the dog isn't acting normal. Two, the dog ain't barking. Which I've never met a dog that's inside that hasn't whined or barked at all.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that's great evidence. For me personally, just because we don't see the dog. Two, if I thought this was a fucking skinwalker, I would set my camera down and just let it record as I go and hide. I'm not gonna face down this skinwalker. They're powerful. Dude, just break down my door and come in, unless they have like the vampire thing where you have to let them in.
Now, the thing about skinwalkers is they can't show themselves. They have to just act weird, but they can't show themselves as like someone knowing that they are, because then that defeats
the purpose.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's weird, that one definitely, but I'm not gonna be like, that's definitive proof. But that's just me. Dog is definitely acting strange, but at the same time, in my opinion, it's a dog, and they just act weird in general sometimes. But yeah, I think maybe that's gonna round out the episode. What do you think? Mm-hmm. All right, short one for you guys this week. Depending on how much time we have allotted, because next episode is going to be Cryptid versus Cryptid. Obviously, we haven't thought of anything yet for that one, but it will be the last one before we hop into the mashup and rehash. Like I was saying, depending on how much time we have left, because we'll probably have like a spare extra 30 minutes if the Cryptid versus Cryptid episode is an hour. Maybe we'll throw in another small case like this if we have the time next week to put one together.
Yeah, I'm always looking for weird conspiracy theories and stuff, so I always have these.
Yeah, and I really wanted to, when I looked up the Martin family and that missing family popped up, there's really nothing on it, like anybody's really covered it big time. So I kind of want to look into it a little more. Maybe this is the case that breaks for us and we blow up because of it.
Yeah.
But it's really weird for a family just to disappear. Maybe we talk about that on another one of these. Mm-hmm. But as far as scheduling goes, most likely in 2 weeks we'll have the next episode of Cryptid vs. Cryptid out. And we are going to pick some great cryptids to really round out Season 3. And then we'll see what Season 4 turns out like.
We're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel too, because a lot of the next ones I can find are all sea monsters.
Oh god, I'm getting flashbacks to Season 2 of Cryptid vs. Cryptid.
And they're all Nessies.
We can do an on-the-scene investigation of Tahoe Tessie. You know, a little behind the scenes. When I think it was, goddamn, maybe 2 episodes after we did the Loch Ness Monster, I was up in Tahoe, and I recorded a segment on my phone, just off, like I was walking along the beach because my sister and her friends were fucking off somewhere else. And I just recorded a little segment on my phone, like, hey everybody, this is Matt from Cryptid vs. Cryptid on the scene for the hunt of Tahoe Tessie. It was cringe, so I never did anything with it, and I forgot about it. But, you know, maybe we do an on-the-scene investigation for Tahoe Tessie. Mm-hmm. I don't really want to do anything water-based, because I don't think we've done anything so far, unless it was water and land.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ones, but...
And we've already got our 2 Bigfoots for this season, so
yeah,
can't really delve into that barrel again. But we will find something, and it will be amazing, and it will not be a Fresno Nightcrawler situation again where they can't really fight. But I think that's about it for this episode, which I've said probably for the 3rd time this episode. So, if you enjoy what we do here, we have ratings now on Spotify, and I'm going to check that while we continue to do the outro. If you like what we do here, leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify. I don't know if I'll be able to actually view it, but it's there.
If we can view it, we'll list off your name.
No ratings as of yet, and I'm not going to rate it from myself. Oh, never mind. I just read, once enough people have given feedback, we'll display the average rating. So maybe you have rated it. If you have, thank you very much. If you haven't, and you're listening... then why don't you drop us a listen so it'll display?
And if you have rated it 5 stars and you want to be named on the podcast, shoot us an email at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com.
We'll read all emails and such live on the show. But we do appreciate all the listens. It's really fun. We love doing this. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll see you next time for a little bit of Cryptid versus Cryptid fun and shenanigans. See ya.
Later.